for men who refuse to stay complacent. Welcome to the Upgraded Man podcast with your host, Chris Anderson.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Upgraded Man podcast. Chris Anderson here. Today, we're going to be diving into a topic that you're going to walk away feeling like you're going to be more successful. You're going to be able to get out of your own way, achieve more, and learn how to get through some blocks that could be holding you back. So we brought an expert, a high achiever coach. He's helped, lots and lots of men and high achievers get through some barriers, be successful, more successful than they already are, and improve their lives. He's also was in the Navy, and we'll talk a little bit about that. He's wrote a book. He's done really well in real estate. So he's got a lot of successes under his belt, a lot of experience under his belt, and he helps high achievers overcome and do more with their lives and their businesses. So super excited to have Tim Kelly on the show. Tim, welcome to the Upgraded Man podcast.
What's up, Chris, man? I've been excited for this conversation. Thanks so much for having me, man. Let's get into it and see what we could do to add value to whoever decides to listen to us today.
Yep, absolutely. So we're going to dive right into it, right? So you help high achievers get out of their own way, right? So when someone comes to you, says, Tim, man, I'm doing well, but there's just something in my way. There's something keeping me from that next level. What's truly the biggest problem in most of those individuals?
So I've been blessed to be around a lot of very successful people. Success is defined differently among everybody, but typically the high performers and people who are strivers and who are not willing, who are not, where to take big risks. And I've kind of realized there are like three main reasons why even the highest performers stay stuck. Number one is they get to a point where they confuse activity with actual progress.
Okay.
Number two, they chase perfection over momentum. And then the third one is they get to a spot where they start measuring themselves against this imaginary idea or concept of themselves, or they start measuring themselves against somebody else where they think they need to be or where somebody else is, instead of measuring themselves against how far they have come and who they were last year or even 6 months ago or a month ago.
Yeah.
Right.
I can relate to a lot of those, right? Along my journey have had to overcome a lot of those. The first one you mentioned, right? Basically being busy over effective, kind of in simpler terms, right? Why do we find ourselves as high achievers, thwarting our own progress by just staying busy instead of efficient and actually progressing?
Man, I think every single one of these is going to fall back on the most important topic in high performance is clarity. I'll just give it to you straight. Like for those of who are listening right now, you have to ask yourself and even assess yourself on a 1 to 10 scale right now in your life, where you are. How clear are you on who you are, where you're headed, what value you could provide to other people, and what it is that you're looking for to get to your next level on a scale from 1 to 10.
Yeah. And that's clarity. That's huge. So how do we even, begin getting clear on all those things? Because there's so much going on in the world and life and business and jobs to really get clear on who we are, what we want, and where we're headed. Where do we even start with that?
Just like I gave it to you, that the very first step is assess yourself on where you are on a scale from 1 to 10.
Yeah.
And if you're above an 8, cool. What do you need to do to get to a 10?
Yeah.
That will take a little bit deeper thinking.
Sure.
But if you're not at an 8, if you're less than an 8, that's where you have to just ask yourself, why does what I'm doing matter? And so going deep, or if you ever heard of going 7 layers deep, to figure out what your why is. And it's very unique to every single person.
Yeah.
And if someone does not know their why, these are the people that are moving fast maybe towards a target that's leaning against the wrong wall because they feel productive. They feel like they're getting things done. Right. They feel like their whole calendar is jam-packed. They have meeting after meeting, or like they're doing deep work. They're doing all they think are the right things. They're maintaining their health. They're maintaining their relationships. But it's not actually moving the needle in a meaningful way because it's not aligned with their purpose.
Yeah.
So and how do you find your purpose? You ask yourselves, you do that. You conduct a clarity audit on yourself, figure out what you're doing and how meaningful the work is that you're actually doing, and then why it matters to you. And you have to ask yourself why at least 5, if not 7 times, to the point where you will start crying. Like the whole reason why you're doing what you're doing has to be so meaningful to you that it gets you emotional thinking about it or talking about it or sharing it with other people.
Yeah.
And that's really what separates those who are able to have the level of clarity. They know what they're doing. They know that what they're doing is in line with their mission and their purpose.
Yep.
Because they put the work in to figure out what their why is, why God put them on this planet, what their true purpose is and their mission is, and that it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
You know, it's usually an act of service. You feel like you're serving so much value to other people that it doesn't feel like work, you know?
Are they too superficial with their whys then? Is that what majority of people are? They're kind of not going deep enough?
Man, I wish I could say, oh, most people are this or most people are that.
Yeah.
I can only base it off my research, who I've helped, like what I've read, who I've been around. But I will tell you that most people don't have their level of clarity above an 8.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So most people are not absolutely crystal clear on who they are and like their true identity. And a lot of people think that their identity is what they do.
Right.
And it's not, you can't, but like a lot of people, it's like, hey, who are you? Tell me about yourself. Oh, I'm a pilot, you know, or I'm a Marine Corps soldier. What, you know, like we kind of fall back on giving us this identity is equivalent to like what our job is, what our job title is.
Yeah.
You know, and it took a lot of breakthroughs for me. It took a lot of ups and downs and peaks and valleys through my own personal journey for me to figure out my own personal why, but everybody has their own journey. But most people are not putting in the work to get that level of clarity, which is why a lot of people, even if they're working really, really hard, and if they're successful on paper, they don't feel that level of fulfillment that they're hoping that they would at this point.
Yeah. What if someone it's like, this is a great idea, Tim, you know, this could change how I see myself and see my work and things like that. But what if they have no idea what their whys are or what they want to head towards or who they want to be as a person? What if they have like no inkling of what that should be? That seems overwhelming probably to them to be like, oh yeah, okay, I'm just supposed to go 7 layers deep on what I want, but I have no idea. I just want to, you know, make money and survive, right? Kind of the mindset. How do they shift from that to actually start building out that identity and the correct thing, and build out kind of those whys?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different questions, I've helped people figure this exact thing out.
Yeah.
Number one is just having a higher, if they really don't know, having a higher level of self-awareness, and you could immediately improve your level of self-awareness within 5 minutes by taking a couple different personality assessments, like free ones, like the DISC profile.
Yep.
Right now, there's a next level one that we use with like hiring and firing with EOS. If you're familiar with EOS, it's the Culture and Predictive Index. Okay. That helps you understand your strengths and your weaknesses, what fires you up, like by design, by how you think, by how God created you. Like these are the types of roles, or this is the type of work that you'll probably be good at or enjoy, right? So that just means they have to work on themselves, like get to know themselves and understand their strengths, their weaknesses. And then it's like, look, if money didn't matter, if you were making $1 million a day, how would you spend your time? What would you do that would bring you the most amount of joy? Right?
Yeah.
And it's you just got to peel that back a little bit, It's like if it's a lot of people tie it to money because they, and that's a whole nother conversation, of course.
Right.
Because
a lot of people, like you say that, like if you were to have $1 million a day and nothing, that didn't matter what we do, people would be like, that's like unfathomable. Like I can't do that. And so like that limiting belief type thing comes in. So like overcoming that first of like actually being able to imagine and think, what an ideal life could look like and actually believe it could look like that. In my mind would be a great first step too, which goes to self-awareness and belief and things like that.
And I like, this is something to me, like my life has been, a series of identity transitions, probably like a lot of people. I went from like this confused kid that grew up in the suburbs of Chicago to joining the Navy as a rescue swimmer, where I embodied the mantra, so others may live. Then I, 10 years in, I realized I don't want to do another 10 years of deployments, leaving my family, all these sacrifices for another 10 years just to get a pension. And that's when God led me into real estate, and I started building wealth. And then I was like a commercial real estate investor, and I was seeking high levels of financial freedom through real estate. And then I got out at 15 and a half years, which was bold because I had financial freedom. And then I realized financial freedom means nothing if you don't have the responsibility and purpose to handle it, Chris.
Yeah. Yep.
And most people think financial freedom is this destination.
Right.
Where once you have it, you're set.
Right.
Bro, it is not. That is so far from the truth. Once you achieve it, now God just gave you the next level, and that requires next level responsibility, next level of discipline, and next level of growth in order to sustain it and to continue to thrive.
Yeah.
I didn't. The first level of financial freedom I didn't have the level of responsibility to maintain it. I essentially lost it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's quick, or it's so crazy how quick it comes and goes. And if we don't manage it well. And I think, again, kind of going back to what we talked about is understanding why, understanding yourself. Maybe you realize about yourself, hey, I'm maybe not that good with finances right now. Maybe I spend too much, like looking at your budget. So all that can kind of encompass, learning about yourself, understanding your why and your goals. And if you have that stronger why, then you're going to start making changes financially, even in your fitness, in your relationships, that gets you to that final goal. But you, again, kind of starting with what we said is being clear. And it all kind of ties in together. The second one you mentioned I want to hit on too is perfection. People are trying to chase perfection over just progress. I think Dan Martell said it best. I learned from him when he said, I'd rather have something 80% perfect, but it's done, versus someone trying to get 100% perfect and it never happens. And I think that's kind of what you're meaning by that second piece, right?
Man, you captured it. Okay. And, this goes to even a lot of people who are afraid to even get started before they achieve that first milestone of success, whatever that means to them, because they think they have to have everything figured out before they get started.
Yep.
Right. And you're not going to see the top of the stairs until you make your first step.
Right.
You can't, like, if you look at a staircase, you can't actually see what's up there until you start stepping up and going like and I'm telling you, the cost of inaction is a lot more expensive than the cost of taking that step and making a mistake.
Yep. Absolutely.
I'm gonna say that again because I hope that sticks with people.
Yeah.
The cost of doing nothing is a lot more expensive than the cost of taking that first step and making a mistake.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, because you can't progress if you don't even try, right? I mean,
fast forward your life 12 months, and whatever your you're wrestling with, or like you're usually escaping some kind of pain, or you're either running towards, you're running away from pain, or you're running towards something that you think you'll have less pain.
Right.
And of course, this goes back to the why and all that. But look, if you want that next level, it's going to require change, and change is hard for people, man. We're sitting here as of today, like we're sitting here, both you and me, as a result of all the people that we spent time with, all the books that we've read, the education that we've got, all the decisions that we've made up until right now. That is how we are, who that has shaped us into who we are today. But if you want something different, if you want to accomplish a different goal, if you want to create freedom, if you keep doing those same things and hanging out with the same people and making the same decisions, and you think you're just going to get a different result, that's the definition of
insanity.
Insanity. So if you want a different result, if you want to change your future, you have to change the people you spend time with, what you learn, and your decision-making process. You have to change. That's hard for some people, man. And actually it's hard for a lot of people, which is why I love like serving military. I left the military, but there's no way I would leave the military community, because we're programmed in the military to adapt and overcome regardless. We get orders. We got to go deploy around the world. Like, we don't have even a chance to think about it. We just got to go do it.
Right.
And so we're programmed to, like, no matter what, we got to go without even thinking about it. We adapt and overcome. But if you think about the cost of doing nothing, and if you fast forward 12 months, if you're trying to escape fear, or if you're trying to set your family up, or you're trying to retire your wife, right? And that's a deep why, because I don't want my wife to work anymore. I want her to be a stay-at-home. Like, for me, that's a lot of men who I know who are like that. Their why is they don't want their wife to work anymore, because God did not design us that way.
Right.
And so, but if you like, I want to retire my wife, and you're trying to put yourself in a situation and you do nothing. Now a year goes by, your wife kept working for that whole entire year. Your kids are still not seeing and not being cared for like they need to be. You guys are still not able to have the same conversations. You guys are still in conflict because she's not doing what God designed her to do. Versus if you took action and you started making progress, maybe you had to invest in yourself, you had to invest time, you had to invest resources, you had to sacrifice Netflix and chill time to make this happen for you and your wife. The cost of doing that and getting started, and eventually now a year later, you have some traction and probably already created some momentum for yourself, versus if you did nothing, now you're even deeper. So the cost of inaction, the cost of doing nothing, is a lot more expensive than starting and making some mistakes.
Absolutely. And change, regardless, or every choice, it's going to be hard. It's going to have an outcome. You just got to pick which heart is yours, right? And that's going, even going back to being careful who you tell your goals and dreams to, right? I just had this conversation with an individual the other day who was asking me, hey, how do I go about finding mentorship? Who should I entrust, these things to, talking to them about? And I said, you've got to guard all that, because a lot of people, even if it's out of protection for you, out of love, can hold you back based on them, saying, that's risky, or that could turn out badly. So they could deter you from your goals. So you have to be really adamant on who you share that with, and protect those, because even if they mean well, people can still drag you down because of limiting beliefs or mindsets that they've had and not overcome. And so that's hard sometimes, right? We can't have, our relationships will have to change. Our conversations have to change. And it's
dude, whoever asked you that question,
yeah,
I got to give them a lot of credit, because at least they're trying to be intentional to put themselves in the right rooms.
Exactly.
Right? Most people are not willing to do that. Most people, and look, man, like, here's another one-liner that's, that's tweetable. You cannot succeed in isolation, right? You have to be intentional about putting yourself in the right rooms. So good, like, a lot of credit and commendable whoever asked you that, because 100%. You're searching for it. But you have to do as much due diligence as you possibly can. You can't just like post it on Facebook or think that the people who are your friends, who you went to high school with, your family, they're not going to understand you because they know you as the old version of yourself. You're trying to step into this new version of yourself.
Yep.
And 99% of those individuals are not growing at the rate you want to grow. So you have to find different people. God has blessed me with allowing me to be put into rooms because I was intentional about it. I was searching for it. I knew that's what was required to get to the next level. And some of those individuals to this day are my accountability partners that I meet with on a weekly basis. And we share the most vulnerable, dark things, because the more vulnerable you are with those individuals, the more you're going to get out of that relationship and the more you guys are both going to grow together. But everybody that I shared those things with, everybody that I shared my deepest, darkest secrets with, I went through some very, very dark times about 3 years ago. Went through a really nasty divorce, lost over 7 figures of net worth. I had to completely rebuild it. And God has blessed me with even a higher level of freedom now. But one of the biggest things I learned, Chris, during that dark time, during the darkest times in your life, you're in the darkest valley, the brightest stars are going to shine.
Yep.
The people that actually matter are going to show up.
Yep.
And they are going to be people who you never thought were going to randomly show up for you. And the people who you expected to show up for you are not.
Yeah.
So it's like you go through that dark time and it's God's way of saying you need some change. And you need a new chapter. You need to grow through this because you're going to elevate yourself and you're going to, the sun is always brighter on, after the storm or whatever that, is. But like, it's also a time to filter out the people and things in your life that are no longer serving you.
Yeah. There's chapters, right? And every new chapter, you lose some characters, things change. And so, yeah, in life, it's the same thing. Like, you have a chapter where you have certain people in your life and it's great or it's hard or, you're doing good, you're doing bad. And, the next chapter comes and the whole thing can change.
You're not going to know whether the people, in your room are the right room until you try.
Yep. And again, regardless, good and bad, this too shall pass, right?
I'm afraid that the people I, spill my beans to, they're not going to be the right people. They're going to, whatever these unfathomable reasons or excuses are. But it's a lot more expensive, right, to do nothing than to try to get in the right room and figure out that, look, the first partnership or the first accountability group that you're in didn't work out, but then that led you to the next accountability group where like now these are your best buddies and now iron sharpens iron is real.
Yep.
It's like you got to understand and be flexible and give yourself grace that the first 100%. Partnership or the first accountability group or the first time you try something, it's not going to work out, man. And you got to know that. Like, you got to be okay with that.
Yep. And this too shall pass, right? Good, bad, ugly, it all goes away. And so
it's how you frame it, Chris. Like, there's no such thing as a failure. It's either you win, you progress, or you learn. Either way, it's a win.
Which is progression still, I think, in learning.
Moving the needle. When you fail, you can either see it and how you frame it. If it's a lesson learned, so one of my mentors called it like a seminar, right? If a big failure, you could say, "Oh, this is just a seminar. I'm learning something now. I'm not going to make a mistake. I'm going to move forward." Or you could take this failure and just act like a victim. Oh, I guess this is not for me. I guess I'm not. I guess I'm a failure, or thinking that because you tried, which most people wouldn't even try, thinking that you tried and you didn't succeed the very first time, you think automatically you're a failure. Reframe your brain, okay?
Yep.
See it and completely switch your paradigm. And I know that the first time I'm going to try, I'm probably not going to succeed, but I need to go anyway. And that's okay because failure is part of the process.
Yep. Absolutely. So for you, what was like that progress that you're on, that journey you're on? Obviously, we're always still on a journey. Upgraded Man is not a destination. It's a journey as well. Like, we're continually upgrade and improve our lives. But for you and yours, what was a breakthrough that you knew you had to get through that scared you the most? Did you have anything like that?
Oh man, a handful.
Yeah.
I'll be a little vulnerable here. I told you I got out of the Navy because
Mm-hmm.
I achieved financial freedom. And I'm like, sweet, I'm set. This is it. I was buying apartment buildings with partners. I was growing now what is the biggest, and it's the premier military real estate investing education community called Active Duty Passive Income. We were helping thousands and thousands of service members, achieve freedom in real estate. And like since then, it's just grown exponentially. But like we were on a really good path and momentum. I'm like, I'm set, getting out at 15 and a half years. I don't need it. I don't need that pension. And I had this freedom. And I told you I didn't have the same level of responsibility. And dude, it quickly fell apart for me.
Yeah.
It quickly fell apart for me because I didn't continue to grow at the rate, and I wasn't focused on the 5 life arenas that matter to me most. And they actually spell the word grows, GROWS. And if I'm not focused on these 5 life arenas, if I'm not moving the needle in these 5 life arenas, then I'm going to feel it and I'm going to start drifting. And that's where the discipline and my decisions start leading me down a path that's not good.
Yeah.
And so just so you know, like those 5 life arenas, G is God.
Yep.
Okay. Building my relationship with God. I was blessed while I was active duty to be put in rooms with men who encourage me to pursue a relationship with God. Read his and understand his word.
Yeah.
So you can actually obey him because it's all him. Like he's in complete control.
Yep.
And so I have to surrender my life to him every single morning. It's my holy hour. So like, what am I doing this week to continue to sharpen my relationship with God? And then R is my relationship with my wife. Her name's also Ramya, which is like, an R. So like, what am I doing to be a better husband, better provider? Yeah. O is my occupation as like an investor, as a coach, helping men seek more clarity through adventure and coaching. And so like, how am I able to impact more people? W is my wealth, like long-term wealth, my legacy. Yep. I'm finalizing a trust right now, figuring out how to pay less taxes legally. There's always something to do to move the needle in your wealth. And then S is strength, like physical strength, my nutrition, my fitness. So like, if I don't have a weekly target in all my 5 areas of grows, then I will start drifting. And I have those accountability groups in place to do that. But during that very, very dark time, wasn't worried about grows, Chris. I wasn't pursuing my relationship with God, but luckily during the darkest time, because of the men that I connected with in the Navy told me to pursue him. I'm like, I can't figure this out on my own. I was, I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 because I had depression and I had manic episodes. And that's essentially the definition of bipolar disorder. And I'm like, I don't believe that. And that's a whole other story, but it was very dark, right? For me, I wasn't thinking straight. I wasn't clear because I wasn't focused on growth. And with freedom comes responsibility. And luckily I started pursuing Jesus. I started pursuing him, surrendering to him, giving everything to him. And literally just like a few months later, it was like my new chapter, and during this time I went through a really, really ugly divorce because I wasn't focused on my marriage. That ended in a terrible divorce. But because I gave it to God, I surrendered it to him. I started focusing on my grows. That's when I quickly was able to kind of move through that, and my accountability groups and the people that I were around and who showed up for me during the darkest times, Chris. I got to give them a lot of credit.
That's awesome. Yeah, your circle is important for sure, especially when all those things that are happening. It's great to have those people to lean into and lean on, and they're going to help you keep progressing and not just focus on staying perfect, right? They're going to be like, hey, you got to get it done. The accountability piece there, and that second, pillar you mentioned. We've hit the first 2, and this conversation has been so good, and I didn't write it down. Can you remind me what the third one is you mentioned at the beginning?
The third. Okay. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So you mean the 3 reasons why a high performer stays stuck?
Yep.
So they confuse activity with progress.
Yep.
They chase perfection
yep.
over momentum, and then they measure themselves.
That's it. Yep.
So look, And there's a whole book that talks about this. It's called The Gap and the Gain. Okay, if you haven't heard that, write that down, read that freaking book, or use AI to summarize it, whatever you want to do, because this is really the whole concept that separates the high performers who achieve at high levels that are actually fulfilled and happy versus those who achieve at high levels that are sacrificing their health and their family and their relationships. Because look, if you've ever heard comparison is the thief of joy, this kind of just goes a lot deeper and explains, because when you are achieving, when you're striving, there's always that next level. There's always that thing, right? And a lot of times people forget about how far they've come and what they've achieved to celebrate their wins. And a lot of times people measure themselves with where they're at now and where they think they should be, or they see where other people are. You're comparing yourself to other people. There might be in a completely different chapter, so that's totally unfair. Or you're comparing yourself to, oh, I'm this age. There's other people, there's other men who are this age and they have this much, or by this age, I always thought I was going to have this net worth, or I was going to have this, many properties, or this much in revenue, like whatever it is, whatever you think, where you think you should be, that's going to keep you trapped, right? That's going to keep you racing and not actually fulfilled, because you're not measuring yourself. You got to strive, but you can't wrap your identity to who you think that you should be. You got to understand that you could only measure yourself in how far you have come. Compare yourself to only where you were yesterday, 6 months ago, a year ago, and 10 years ago, right? Yeah. When you're measuring yourself against who you were and that's it, man, it's a lot easier to continue striving with joy and be at peace and be fulfilled, right?
And it's so much harder nowadays to do that too. I mean, because you can see social media, you see everybody's highlight reel like every day. You can see whatever they want you to see constantly. Whereas before social media, you'd usually only see it if you maybe saw a story in the paper or heard it on the radio or actually talked to them in person. So I think it's becoming harder for people to stay away from the comparison trap because it's just in front of us so much.
I mean, here's the truth. If people are not sharing with you their losses and their challenges,
right,
as much as they're sharing their wins,
right,
you can't really believe them. Or there's like a hidden, there's a reason why, there's an agenda, and a lot of people are really just striving for likes but like, again, a lot of people are tying to their identity to how many followers they have. Could you believe that?
Right.
Like, I'm telling you, and the truth is, that's one of the reasons, Chris, why I force myself to be open and be vulnerable and make it really, really known and understand, like, where you are now and where you want to go is not going to be a straight line.
Yeah.
You have to understand there's going to be peaks and valleys, disappointments, celebrations along the way. You have to be ready for that. And only seek to follow people who are willing to be real and authentic with you and share. These are the things that I've learned, man. I crashed and burned, but guess what? I kept going. Yeah. And this is what I learned from that. If they're not willing to kind of open up and get real with you about it. And if most people actually are, if you reach out to them, if you connect with them, just the people who are actually worth something have probably gotten to that place because they had help from coaches and mentors and other people.
Right.
And so they're okay. They're usually okay with giving back and being an open book and kind of just trying to help mentor, right? Other people who are actually showing that they're trying and that they're pushing, but I don't have any notifications on my social media. I never catch myself doom scrolling. If I don't intentionally, I won't go on social media unless I'm actually posting or sharing a story or sharing something and I'm engaging with other people's content. You will never catch me just doom scrolling mindlessly. Yeah. That's a whole other conversation, Chris. Sure. Yeah. That's just not good for the brain, especially if you're trying to like get through some self-doubt, and if you have like imposter syndrome or your fears or uncertainties or something like that, which we all do, but we just figure out how to move forward, like just quit looking at social media, and you could completely reset your algorithm too, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, you could completely reset your algorithm, because, you know, Instagram is going to want to show, if you're a man 35, 45, 50 years old, you're going to see a bunch of half naked girls. Like when you look in the search bar more, you know, because that's how the algorithm is set. But you could literally set the algorithm and completely reset it. And like only allow you to see, and like allow Instagram to put in front of you what you want to look at, you know, and what you actually do. And if you want to look at the naked chicks, you want, like, you're probably not in a place right now that you're ready for growth, that you're ready for change. That's another problem you got to overcome. Right. But it's just so easy to, like, you know, see that stuff. You log in, you don't even try, you're going to see boobies. Like, they're just going to be put right in front of you. You know, you have to be intentional about that too. You have to be intentional about not allowing that into your brain, you know, it's inevitably going to affect you.
Yep. So I guess that kind of leads me into a question of, is so much out there, and there's so much out there on, you know, men's mindset, men's high achieving, you know, gurus, coaches, other ones who are putting courses out there. What do you see out there right now in the same vein that what you're doing, but that's completely just wrong? Like the stuff you're seeing, you're like, why are they selling that? Or why are they trying to tell men to do that? Is there anything that pops to your mind?
So I'll just be as direct as possible. Like, I don't know, because I don't like go follow like a bunch of random, you know, influencers or gurus or people who call themselves coaches, that, you know, I'm not aligned with. So it's not like I follow those types of people. So like, I just kind of focus on what's meaningful in my life, and what I've learned, and putting it into like how I could help other people and channeling that into other people. Because like, if you don't set your intention for the day, somebody else is going to set the intention for you.
Right.
So I don't know. It's probably not what you wanted to hear, Chris, but I don't like follow a bunch of random gurus that I don't appreciate, that I don't respect, that are like putting out wrong information. If I see like, wow, why is he sharing that with people? I would probably like unfollow or just not pay attention. And so I don't really see or hear a whole lot of their content or something like that. But there is a lot of misinformation out there. Guys, like, this might sound cliche, but if anybody's trying to like, oh, you can get rich quick, or, you know, that's, you know, it takes work, man. Like to achieve freedom, to achieve financial freedom, or the level of freedom like we're talking about here, which is the next level of freedom where you're happy, you're fulfilled, where you're not just making a lot of money and you have a high net worth, but you're able to sustain your relationships and your health and your level of personal joy. That's freedom, right? That and so in order to accomplish that, it takes work, man.
Yeah.
It takes commitment. It takes sacrificing. It takes sacrificing what society is believing us to be the normal and mediocrity. It takes going against the grain. It takes when you say this, I want to accomplish freedom. It takes having the people that you grew up with look at you and laugh at you and tell you that you're crazy. And it takes taking that and be like, hey, man, appreciate it, and then intentionally finding different rooms to be in with people who have the same mindset. It takes consistency. It takes struggles. It takes failures. Okay. It takes a lot of ups and downs, potentially depression, potentially anxiety, potentially suicidal thoughts. And I'm going off based on my own journey, Chris.
Right.
And so if you are not ready for all of that, maybe you're not ready for change. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. But you have to understand that's all part of the process. Okay. No one will achieve something meaningful unless they went through hell and told themselves like, okay, I'm going through hell. Good. I got to just keep going because I'm on the right track.
Yeah. And I heard it early on in my journey is new levels, new devils. And so no matter where you're at in life, there's always going to be something you got to battle through, get through. So, but Tim, this has been a great conversation, and I appreciate you sharing and being open and all the work you're doing. we're getting to the end here, and what we're doing with the Upgraded Man now is I have what I call the Upgraded Man Journal, just this leather journal. And what we're doing is each guest I have on is leaving something for the next guest, whether it be a quote, a question, and letting them kind of iterate, talk on that point. And so a previous guest I had on was Jeff McCabe, co-founder of Hard Truth Distillery out of Indiana. He also runs Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Brewery. And he left something. He gave me a story of how he grew up and he worked alongside Byron Nelson, which is a famous golfer in the area. Won a lot of different titles back in the day, and was learning golf and out there golfing. And they got to the point where Byron said, "Hey, you can't get any better," and you kind of joking around and things like that. And they got talking, and they were watching these other pros putt. Each pro was putting this long putt on the green. Each one missed by maybe 3 to 5 feet long of the hole. So each of their shots just went past the hole just barely. And so he asked Jeff, "Hey, what did you see in these pros?" And Jeff's like, I don't know. I mean, they missed. He's like, none of them laid the ball up short. You lay the ball up short, you're not giving yourself a chance. So never putt short. Always give enough to get the hole. And if you pass it, at least, you gave yourself a chance to make it, to sink the putt. And that was what his quote was: never putt short. So I'm going to let you kind of think on that, and whatever resonates and comes to your mind, you can speak to.
This is coming from a guy who doesn't golf. Coming from a guy who has actually played a full, even 9 holes, maybe like 3 times in my entire life, because I was invited out with just like guys and buddies, and my brother is actually loves golf, and last time he was here in Tampa, we went to a really nice course. But to me, like, if you're not willing to sort of get into this state of obsession and put more effort than you think that you want to, I don't think you're worthy of achieving whatever you're trying to achieve. Yeah. And so that's what came up for me when I heard, why would you just, if you're really trying to make a big impact and change your family tree and create real generational changes, why would you only give it 50 or 80%? If you're not willing to put every single ounce of your being into it, don't even try, don't even start, man. You're going to be disappointed.
That's awesome. I love that. So yeah, I love hearing what people have to say about the previous, and I love that one too. Never putt short. I never, thought about that, even golfing, because I enjoy golfing too. I tell my soccer kids when I'm coaching, give us a chance, right? At least get the ball far enough in the pass, or put the shot on goal. Give us a chance to do something with it. And so, I really like that. So for you, what would you like to leave for the guest after you? Comment, question, quote.
So this one thing, even when you first brought it up, and you told me that I was gonna, leave something for the next guest. I got it put on my heart. One of the most important concepts in high performance is courage. And kind of we talked in the very beginning about clarity, and how to, on a scale from 1 to 10, how clear are you, on who you are, what you do, how you help and add value to people, and what you need for your next level. Assess yourself on clarity.
Yeah.
Do the same thing for courage. On a scale from 1 to 10, how courageous have I been, and how bold have I been in sharing who I am, what I do, how I add value to people, and what I need to get to the next level. And here's something I really started to uncover, working with a lot of different high performers across so many different industries. A lot of them were real estate, scaling into commercial from residential, or C-suite executives, but a lot of them are very, very courageous, Chris, in business.
Yeah.
in high stakes conversations, negotiations, having those crucial discussions, whatever, leading people where they lack courage is failing to have a tough conversation with someone they love. A spouse, a parent, a sibling, a child, right? Not asking them for forgiveness or not sharing them how they feel, especially us men, man.
Yep.
We are born with a massive ego. We are born with this wall that you have to break through just to express how we feel. Like naming emotions. Dude, for the longest time I had this wheel of emotion on the side of my computer right here.
Nice.
Just so I could start figuring out how to identify how do I feel, just like naming it. It was like nearly impossible for me to do on my own. Right?
Yeah.
So I realized, ask yourself for that second person, or whoever's listening to this, and you know, for the next guest, what conversation, decision, or commitment are you avoiding right now? And I don't even want you to think about your professional life. I want you to think about your personal life in the relationships that matter most. Awesome. I could 100% guarantee you there's always something there.
Yeah.
Awesome. There's always something there.
And that's going to be a good one to share. I'm excited to share with the next guest that question.
And then because I have to like know this person's going to move the needle towards that next step. Is okay. Now you know the conversation, you know the person, they're already going to think about it. The next question is, when are you going to have the conversation, and what are you going to say? And just take like 5 minutes and write a couple ideas down so you can clearly articulate how you feel. If you just do that, right? That's going to level your courage up, and you level up courage in your house, with your family, with your spouse, your partner, whoever it is. That's going to give you 10 times more courage in business. Just like when you work out and you break through and you get uncomfortable in the gym, like you're going to be able to 10x how uncomfortable you get when you're in business, and you know, in the rest of the facets of life that matter to you, you know.
That's awesome. That's a great question. I'm excited to share those with the next guest and get their response. But Tim, again, this has been a fantastic conversation, and I really do appreciate you coming on, sharing all this wisdom, expertise, guidance with everyone listening. If people want to get your help or connect with you, where's the best platform for them to do that at?
Oh man, easiest way to do that is to just go to my website, is thetimothykelly.com. All my socials are also at the Timothy Kelly, LinkedIn, Instagram. I mean, if this conversation struck a chord with you and you know you're capable of more, guys, just book a call. You're going to actually go through what's called a high performance clarity assessment. It'll take you 5 minutes to kind of go through and assess yourself on some of these areas that we're talking about. So then you and I can get a lot out of the conversation. We'll look at where you're stuck. We'll look at what's misaligned and what your next courageous move needs to be. And then we could see if there's a fit, if you want more help, if you, if you think we're aligned, then we could talk about how we could work together. But I just want to give you, and I got it like a free gift, a whole, like a gap guide, figuring out where your gaps are and all the high performance pillars. Go to my website, check it out, take that assessment, get the gap guide, book a call if you want. I just want to see you win. I just want to see you break through, because it's just about 1% better. You don't have to make any crazy dramatic changes, Chris. You know that.
Yep.
So head over to my website and let's jump on a call.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. And if you guys want, definitely take them up on that offer, connect with them, learn from them, and continue to grow. Because that's what Upgraded Man's all about, right? 1% better each day. We've heard that over and over. And it's just taking that next step, right? Even if you're crawling along, it's still moving forward. So make sure, if you're not already, follow this show, so we can keep putting out what we're doing here with episodes, and share this with someone. Share this with a guy who you know is trying to be better every single day, because together doing that will help so many more men upgrade each and every day. So Again, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, we'll talk to you later. Have a good one.